When you think about Converse, what enters into your mind? Basketball shoes? The aesthetic of punk rock? Wiz Khalifa? Japan? You probably don't think about Japan, but in the 80s, Converse agreed to make and distributed shoes in Japan with the hope to expand its reach in the East Asian market. Moonstar Chemical Corp was the manufacturing leg of the agreement. They specialized in rubber and chemical productions with a focus on footwear. Think of them as the supplier of raw materials and the manufacturing experts. Then there's Mizuno Corp, or the distribution leg of the agreement. Mizuno Corp was widely known in Japan as a leader in sports. Think of them as the way Converse could get their products in front of the right prospective customers in Japan. And then you had Zet Corp, aka Osaka's most respected sporting brand. By partnering with Zet Corp, Converse hoped to earn the trust of the Kansai region as quickly as possible. But like with so many other heritage American businesses, expansion and global domination don't always go according to plan. And after one bankruptcy, multiple divestments and acquisitions, and a discrepancy in the licensing, Converse Japan was born and has its own history separate from Converse US. Today is the story of that history. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Drew. What it do? It's nice to meet you. This is how Japan saved Converse.
The Converse weapon, that's the shoe.
Converse All-Stars.
White Converse.
Converse All-Stars, vintage 2004.
Converse wants to stop copycats.
Damn.
And I know you want some, all you gotta do is ask.
There was a time when nothing was cooler than a rubber-soled pair of Converse Chuck Taylor All-Stars, which is what makes their eventual bankruptcy one of the most interesting stories in business and fashion over the last 100 years. This is what happened. At its peak, Converse was the #1 player in sneaker culture during the 20th century, controlling over 70% of the basketball shoe market in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. It then became a cult favorite for punk rockers and pop icons, from James Dean to the Ramones, Rocky Balboa to NWA. The amazing thing about Converse is that the shoes were omnipresent in culture throughout the 1900s. If you thought Yeezys were cool in the 2010s, times that Yeezy fandom by a billion. But something started to shift in the 70s and 80s. Competitors like Nike and Adidas started to win the hearts of a new generation of athletes and stars. The Chuck Taylor All-Star had become a certified classic, but it started to lack the innovative features of some of the newer shoes coming out. Nike in the 70s introduced its waffle sole, which eventually turned into the Nike Moon shoe, a shoe that offered better traction while running and allowed Nike to begin building momentum for the next generation of athletes. While other companies were innovating, Converse had gotten complacent. Their success in previous chapters blinded them to what they needed to do to be relevant in the next chapter. Take a listen to this. This is an article from 2001 highlighting the severity of Converse's inability to innovate. Quote, Converse has steadfastly refused to make itself popular, and it is now paying the price for that. Nike and Reebok own the market. They've done whatever they could to create a product that was novel and exciting. On January 22nd, 2001, Converse filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $1.1 billion in debt. And 2 years later in 2003, the company that had beat it out, Nike, ended up buying Converse with the hope to restore this company to its prior glory. So if Nike bought Converse in 2003, where do we get Converse Japan from? Converse had signed agreements with Itochu, a Japanese holding company, as well as the aforementioned Mizuno, Moonstar, and Zet. When Converse filed for bankruptcy, these previous licenses helped Itochu maintain control of the company in the region, effectively saving Converse from this period. Fast forward to the 2020s, and Converse US and Converse Japan are two very different companies. The biggest difference between the two are the philosophies of production. The prevailing US philosophy for large-scale footwear companies from the 1970s to the 2020s is innovate, lower the cost of manufacturing, increase marketing, expand. Expand, 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 growth, 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 lower the cost, offshore, business, 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 stocks, up, down, price, here, there. Converse US. The prevailing Japanese wisdom conducts itself a little differently. Because Converse didn't become this singular phenomenon in Japan, most Japanese customers saw it as a unique slice of heritage Americana. In Japan, Converse was foreign. It was a piece of an American export. Instead of quantity and novelty, Itochu focused the brand to lean more into quality, revival, and vintage replication. The Converse Japan Chucks are heralded as being closer in style to what the original Chucks were like in the 20th century, often toting thicker canvas, heavier rubber, and a shape that matches the styles from the past. Some could argue that during the 1990s through the 2010s, Converse Japan actually made better Converse than Converse US. But over the last few years, Converse US has really gotten its act together. It's important to make note of that. Models like the Chuck 70, Vibram Chucks, and various collaborations match the quality and feel of their made in Japan counterparts. One additional caveat is that not all Converse Japan Converse are made in Japan. Only a portion that are marketed that way, highlighting the fact that Itochu and Converse Japan do use the quote-unquote made in Japan Chucks as a marketing tactic. One other really cool wrinkle to Converse Japan is their Converse Addict line. This is for the real Converse heads and focuses on innovative premium Converse models only sold in Japan. It's crazy, they get pretty innovative with the Converse Addict line. They even have a pair of Converse loafers that look insane. Not to say that the US Converse doesn't also have its fair share of very unique Chucks. Now, one of the major differences between Converse US and Converse Japan is how they both deal or treat sizing. Converse US has done a really thoughtful job over the last decade becoming more size inclusive, making Chucks for people who have wider feet. Converse Japan, on the other hand, is catered towards Japanese customers, and they don't have as many big-footed or wide-footed customers as the US does. So the shoes tend to be narrower and similar to the OG styles. We'll talk more about the details of the shoes in a moment. But here's the kicker. Converse from Converse Japan can only be sold in Japan. So how did I get this pair here? I used something called a proxy, and if you're curious about how I did it, I'm gonna tell you everything. There are several reputable Japanese proxy services because there's a lot of foreign buyers who wanna buy things that are Japanese exclusives. Proxies are just a middleman. They help you have a Japanese address so that when you ask the proxy to buy something for you, the retailer that you're buying it from can ship it to a real address, and then they forward the product to you if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, if you're in Australia, wherever you are, they'll forward it to you. The proxy that I used to get these bad boys was a company called From Japan. This is not sponsored in any way, FYI. This is just what I actually did to actually get the shoes. After setting up my account, I filled out an order form. There's probably a lot of ways to do this, but the way I did it is I just copied and pasted the link from the Converse Japan website into the URL tracker that's a part of From Japan. Once you copy and paste this link, then you can fill out the form, make sure that all the details are correct, the sizing that you want, the color that you want. Even though they have the link, they just want to make sure every little detail is correct. For shoes, it's pretty simple. I just need the right size and I need them shipped to me. They confirmed my submission, purchased the shoes, and then after purchasing the shoes, ordered them to me in New York City. They used DHL, so it came pretty quickly. It only took about, I wanna say it took a week or less, not even. Probably within the week I had the shoes. And the final cost was $140 for my made in Japan burgundy Converse All-Stars. There were no hiccups, no like weird scammy vibes, just good old proxy businesses. And that's why I have a made in Japan pair of Chucks, and I'm making this video and we're doing a bunch of talking, and that's why we're here. My first impression of made in Japan canvas all-stars was one of excitement and shock. I own a pair of Chuck 70 Low, the collaboration they did with Noah, and Lauren owns a pair of Chuck 70 highs that she loves and wears a bunch. And you can tell that there's a difference in materials used between the two different companies based on where they're made. The Japan Chucks canvas and rubber feels slightly more premium than the collaboration Noah's, and it's on par really with the Chuck 70s. I wouldn't say that the Chuck 70s canvas is better or worse. It's a little bit stiffer, if you can tell. It maintains its shape a lot better than the Japan Chucks, and the weight of the shoe feel a little bit heavier and more substantial on the Japan Chucks. Something that I do love about the Noah Chuck 70 lows that I have is that the cushioning is fantastic on another level. While the Japan Chucks don't necessarily have that same technology that Nike is putting into a lot of these new and modern Chuck 70s. In terms of sizing, the largest size that you could get for these Japan Canvas All-Stars were 30 centimeters or a US 11.5. Converse in the US tend to run a bit large, so I was hoping the same would hold true for Japan. And after doing a little bit of research, I found out that it is essentially true. And so when I bought these shoes, I got them in at 10.5, which is technically an entire size down from what I typically wear. I usually am a size 11.5 and I bought 10.5. That's the same size I have for my Noah Chuck 70 lows, and my foot does measure at 29 centimeters and it fits pretty well. It's not too snug, there's a little bit of room, and because they're a high top shoe and you can kind of tighten them, you can wear them in a bunch of different ways, my foot definitely feels locked in. Now, I plan to do more reviews on made in Japan Chucks. I have a 30 centimeter all-star low coming in next week, and I'm worried that it's gonna be a little bit too big, but we're gonna talk all about that in an upcoming video. So if you wanna see that, make sure you're subscribed and turn on post notifications so that you won't miss that video. The unfortunate thing for my bigger foot brothers is 30 centimeters is the largest that they go in Japan, which is an 11.5. We'll talk about this more later, but I think 11.5 probably means that if you're a true size 12 or maybe even a 12.5, then maybe that they can fit you, but we'll get to that when we get to it in the next video. So if you have a bigger foot than that, I'm sorry, it kind of sucks. There's something about these shoes that's hard to put into words, but I'm going to try my best. Maybe it's the smell of the rubber, maybe it's the stiffness or the feel of the canvas, or maybe it's the process that it took to actually get these shoes in hand. You know, using a proxy and all that. But there's definitely an intangible quality that draws me into these made in Japan Chucks. I've been actually sitting on these, waiting to wear them for a few months now because I wanted to make this video, but now that I'm making it, like, the prospect of actually wearing them and styling them is getting me giddy. And it's weird because these shoes aren't that complicated of a shoe, but I think that's what makes them so special. I'm kind of just thinking out loud right now. I'm curious to know, what other questions do you have about this shoe that I can include in the future review of this sneaker? Because that video will be coming and I can't wait to give you an update. This leads us back to the title of this video: How Japan Saved Converse. And if you know anything about Emetora or Amekeji, then you probably already have a suspicion about what I'm going to say. Japan saved Converse like it saved Levi's, like it saved Selvage Denim. Instead of discarding the way something was done in the past, Itochu and Converse Japan upheld the traditions of the past while still innovating for the future. It's a lesson I feel like we don't learn far too often here in the Western world. Yes, it's important to evolve. Yes, it's important to change for the future, but how can we take what's good from the past? Because there's value in knowing, understanding, and bringing back to life that history which made the products that were iconic in the past so special. And that's what these Converse represent to me in a way. They're a living, breathing artifact from the past. It's why I think Converse Japan is one of the coolest stories in the sneaker world today. But there's always a but somewhere. It's never truly that simple. As much as I'm giving praise to Converse Japan for maintaining and saving the silhouettes and the designs of the past, Converse US kind of was doing that in the 70s. They failed to be an innovator when it mattered most. This story feels like a lesson on ambition and the hidden cost of growth for the sake of growth. Converse ended up copying what others were doing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They moved their manufacturing to cheaper regions, made bets that ultimately just didn't end up panning out, and ended up selling the soul of their company with the hope to bolster business outcomes. And then you have Converse Japan, a version of the same company that doesn't feel like it operates like that or has operated like that at all over the last 40 years. It's still a business with business outcomes, but it feels different. It's technically pigeonholed to only selling its Converse in Japan, but it seems fine with that. It serves the community it serves. It understands who its customer is. It understands what its customer wants. And it doesn't try to go beyond that scope. At least that's the way it feels like for now. Japan saved Converse not because it literally saved the designs, even though it did do that and that it is a part of it. It saved Converse by preserving the feeling of what it meant to be a Converse head in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. A feeling like you were a part of something, a part of culture, beyond just the facade of a shoe, but actually getting down to the root and the quality of that shoe. What made the shoe great wasn't just the fact that James Dean wore it or Rocky Balboa wore it. It was the fact that it was a product that actually had qualitative features about it that made it worth wearing. It had details, it had insight, it had innovation, it had beauty. There's a common meme that I see about Japan and people who like Japan. You've probably seen it before. Essentially, the meme is about how people tend to overhype things that come from Japan just because they're a little bit different or a little bit foreign. Everyone kind of loses their mind over Japan things versus the thing in other regions or other parts of the world. To be fair, Converse Japan might actually fall into that category a little bit. I might be making a bigger deal about it than what maybe it deserves, because the differences aren't going to be leaps and bounds above what Converse US is doing. The differences are subtle. But remember what I said earlier. The feeling of this shoe in hand is something that I haven't felt in a long time picking up a new pair of shoes. And I think that's worth something. I would love to know what you think about this story down below. If you have any more context about Converse Japan and the acquisition, the licenses, the details of Converse from the past. I wasn't around in the 50s, 60s, and 70s to experience the glory days of Converse. So if you were, what was it like? Let me know down below. If you have any other questions about anything, let me know down below. As always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2026. So that means I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity. Wait, no. As always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2026. So that means I hope peace, love, and positivity are in your mix. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day. Abianto. Peace. Thanks for watching, guys. Yo, what is good? Post vid. Here are the fist bumps for the one time. Give your boy a fist bump if you made it to this point in the video. I appreciate you for making it to this point in the video. Here we go. Bop. Thank you guys so much for staying to the end of the video. You already know we got to hit it 2 times. Appreciate you so much. Bop. Thank you guys so much for the PVV. Let me know down in the comments hashtag PVV when you get the PVV response. It's like a beacon. The PVV is like the bat symbol. You know, I'm calling out all the real ones. Hashtag PVV when you answer this question. What were your first pair of Converse, if you have ever owned a pair of Converse? I would say that a lot of people who watch my videos probably have heard or know or have owned a pair of Converse at some point in your life. There's a lot of cheaper versions of Converse. For me, in high school, my first pair were a pair of Chuck Taylors. In high school, Wiz Khalifa was really popular, and he had, Taylor Gang. He had that song, and I don't know. I guess I wanted to be like Wiz a little bit, so I wanted to have a pair of Chuck Taylors. So that's my Converse beginnings and stories. Let me know yours down in the comments. See you guys in the next video. Peace.